What's happening? What's happening? How's everyone been? All I see is charts. Let's go. Hyped for today. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Gold been cooking. Yeah. I mean, if you manage to catch those continuations, you eating. For real. Yeah, I see NQ. That's the two pairs I'm looking to dissect today, and then we'll go through any other pairs you guys want to go through. Okay. Well done, Conquer. I don't trade BTC. I just analyze it. I don't trade it. Yeah. All right, guys. So feel free to put your questions in the chat. I do want to start the webinar going through entries, like I was saying. I feel like it's a big part of entering the market, and a lot of people struggle. We see a lot of questions about entries, and everyone has variations of how they enter the market, so it's not like a one size fit all model. Yeah, so let's start with NQ and then we'll make our way to gold. So any questions? I'm going to dissect each day, so then we can look at any questions you might have had. So here we go. On NQ, on the daily chart, for myself personally, I was quite bullish. I couldn't believe that we didn't take highs. So that's the previous weekly high. I was quite shocked that we didn't actually take that and then have the sell-off down to these lows. So it's just literally liquidity to liquidity. Now, why did it come down to these lows? You can see how we broke structure to the upside. And then what we basically did here was just induce buyers to come and trap them. So if your bias was shorts for the week, I mean, there was plenty of opportunities to get into the market. But yeah, you can see that this is a form of an LB, which we respected on Wednesday, had that midweek reversal. And I believe we even had an entry on Wednesday down to those lows. But let's break it down. So let's see where we opened. So let's go down to the hour. All right. So we gapped down. Okay. And then we moved higher. Now you can see how we took this high from the left. Okay, inducing buyers. And then we come in to respect where Rita would be getting in. You can see that. Okay, early sellers getting trapped. Okay, so that's on the open, I believe. Not that you'd be taking a trade there. We come in to fill that gap there on Monday. I don't think Monday there was any opportunities to take a trade that were clean anyway, but we'll look at it. So we induced buyers, okay, and then during London we come and take all of this liquidity to the downside. So you can see all of this liquidity here, okay, and then you have all of this liquidity below that we left from the previous week. So looking at NQ on Monday, you would have seen all of this liquidity to the lows. I would have just marked out that liquidity, so this liquidity here, and look how on Monday, or is that, yeah, Tuesday Asia, we come and take all of that liquidity that was built up last week. So on Monday we started selling off. We took out this low, okay, trapping those early buyers, and then you see that move up. Okay, now look at how we essentially respect the highs, and this is why this wasn't a trading day for myself, but we respect the highs and then we sell off again. So we break structure to the downside here, fact, I'm going to go to the 5 minute to open up this PA. It's a little squashed. So we respect these highs, we sell off, we come and respect the highs again. I think this is on market open. Yeah, we came and we sold off on market open, taking out these lows. We come up and essentially I was waiting for these highs to get taken, okay, which the market didn't do. And so for me, there was no trade there. You can see how this is a liquidity block. Okay, so I would have actually taken this if we came and took those highs. Nonetheless, we induced sellers and then we induced them once more. Yep, so we come and take that low and then we come and trap. Okay, look at where this reaction comes from. So okay, so notice this reaction, we sell off, induce sellers, giving them their confirmation, and then we come and then we trap them. Okay, so we didn't take the inducement from the left, however this is still an LB, and I do believe there was a entry at this LB. Just go down to the 1 minute, find that. I'm sure there was. Let's have a look. So we started to sell off. Yeah, you could have, I mean, if you were on the 1 minute, you could have caught something like this. We induce sellers anywhere in that LB area and then stops above the highs. It's a risky trade. It's not something I'd personally take. But yeah, your stops would be above these highs. In live time, that's hard to catch because you still have that inducement from the left that wasn't taken. And then you would have just taken it all the way down to the lows, as I was saying. So all the way down on Monday, that's a trade that you could have taken to these lows. I don't think there was anything. Once these lows went, by the way, I would just stop chasing the shorts. Okay, because now what we've done is we've induced sellers. Anything below there, it then starts to become lower probability. So we come in, take the shorts. We come, like this stuff here is just all low probability, taking the highs, taking highs. So I would just not be trading at this time either. It is the PM session, which I know some people do trade, but like this could have been an entry, but the volume's just not there. Yeah, so 8 o'clock, 1 hour before the market closes on prop firms, just not something I'd be taking. Nonetheless, we come in and we take the highs during Asia. Now I do think there was an entry here. So notice this LB that I marked out. Okay, this is a build up. Look at where we had these reactions from. So I'll just highlight that. So you want to look at where these reactions came from. We respect the lows and move away. And in doing so, look at the liquidity we've built to the upside. And then, yeah, this is Tuesday Asia session. Could have had a entry there. And then just targeted very simply the liquidity below. So simple as that. So Monday, Tuesday Asia, That was Monday NY session. And so we took that liquidity. So what does that look like on the higher time frame? We just frame that out. Yeah, so this whole build up, this trend line, we came and we took on Monday / Tuesday. Once we've taken significant liquidity, okay, and we've now trapped these early buyers, induced sellers, look at the liquidity we have. What does the market do? It starts moving back up to the upside, and in doing so, look at the liquidity that we left essentially. So on Tuesday, if I just clear my charts now, so on Monday we targeted those lows and price come and takes that. On Tuesday, once we were those lows were taken, your bias would have been long, okay, long up to where? Just the liquidity. So if I just go down to lower time frames and we can spot that. So once those lows were taken, you can see the liquidity above. So you've got this liquidity here. Okay. I think there was news on Tuesday, wasn't there? So nothing at the lows. We come up and London, we just start respecting these lows. So nothing there so far. We can just mark that liquidity point out. Okay, we've induced buyers, so we want to see a trap. The market, I think 130, there was news. I think, is that CPI? I'm not too sure. I think it was CPI. We induce higher once more, and then on stock exchange open, I would have waited for these lows to go, which I couldn't believe weren't taken as well. I thought we'd take these and then move higher. Nonetheless, we carry on moving higher. Nothing on Tuesday, to be honest. And then we come and take these highs on Wednesday during Asia. Now, look at the liquidity we have below. So Tuesday, there was no trade for me personally. If we want to dissect this PA, you can see how we induced buyers. We respected the lows. We moved higher, respected the lows. Again, you can just see we moved higher, okay? And then eventually what we did was we came and we took these highs. Now, that's Tuesday's daily high. So on Wednesday, if I just go to the daily time frame, you can see on Wednesday we took the highs from the left and we took the Tuesday's daily high, so the previous daily high, whilst also leaving liquidity to the downside. Okay, we left those London lows. So my bias going into Wednesday is shorts. Okay, and that's how I would have framed my bias for the day on Wednesday. So you can see how we form a liquidity block over here. Okay, now whether you mark that out as a candle or a zone, it's completely up to you, but that's a liquidity block there. Okay, and so what do we start to do after we've taken that high? Okay, you see how we've built liquidity to the lows. So we respect. Okay, now this was so clean. Okay, if you caught this on a CFD, you could have held this throughout the whole week. Now for me personally, I was waiting for the previous weekly high to get taken. So for me, I just had a strict rule. I just wanted those highs taken. I should have adjusted to PA, but you know, I didn't take anything on this day, but it's a setup I normally do take, where we've induced sellers and then we come up to trap them. Okay, so we trap here. If I go to lower time frames, you'll see the LB that forms. Oh man, this is so clean. Okay, So I'm hoping you guys can see that LB at the top. Yeah, we take out, so we induce lower and then trap. Okay, so that whole area is an LB. Okay, or that candle. And then what do? We literally, I think this is on exactly market open. Yeah, so we induce sellers into the market. Okay, and then we come up and take that internal. As soon as that internal is taken, okay, there is your short. Okay, there's your short. Stops above the high, and then again you would have partialed at these lows here. Okay, and you would have targeted London lows, would have been a good intraday target. Now if you were on a CFD, you could have held this all the way to the lows. Okay, and which lows am I talking about? I'm talking about the lows that we marked out on the higher time frame. You could have held all the way to those lows. But yeah, that was on Wednesday. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I would have taken. Let me just see if there was anything else you could have rode a continuation. Let's have a look. Let's go down to lower time frames. Yeah, nothing there. Yeah, we just come and take those lows, and then we continue to basically fall. So that was the trade of, I would say, the week on NQ, to be fair, on Wednesday. So on Wednesday we come, and so notice how we've induced buyers. We come to these lows. This is an LB, you can see that here. Okay, and we respect that low, essentially engineering liquidity there now, and we start to move higher. Okay, on Thursday. So if we just zoom in, in fact I'll go on the 5 minute. Okay, so this is an LB, as you can see. We induce lower and then we come higher, and then what we do is we come for all of this liquidity. If I go to the 1 minute, in fact, you can see it clearly. So this liquidity here, so we take that liquidity, we take those highs. Again, nothing too clean. Okay, this is during Asia again. Once we've basically respected those lows, we move higher. We've induced buyers, as you can see, and look at the liquidity. We're just building at these lows. Okay, so we sell off, induce higher once more. We take out all of that liquidity. So here, so this is during London now. So once we've induced buyers, look at the liquidity we have at the lows. Okay, so you can see that by framing out your direction, like for example, we said on Thursday, let me just go down to it. So you can see how on Wednesday we respected this low and then we moved away. We broke structure to the upside. You have a bias now to short into. Okay, literally, like this whole leg, you can see, is liquidity. So if I just clear my charts now, I'll keep that liquidity below marked. So what do we do on Thursday? We start to sell off. Okay, and I'll just go to the open so we can see what happens. So we've induced buyers, okay. So our bias is to short, and I think I've took a trade here on Thursday. Let me just zoom in. Yeah, I did. So check this, guys. So we start to sell off, okay. We take out these lows on Thursday. However, look at the liquidity we still have below, okay. In fact, I can even mark that liquidity out. We zoom out, okay. So the way I would mark this out is, where did price react from? These lows. And this is why I'm so careful with my exits as well, literally liquidity to liquidity. So I'll mark that out, okay. So what did we do? So even though we've taken these lows, we still have all of this resting liquidity below, okay. So what do we do? If I just go back now, I'm hoping you guys can see this, but what we have here is a liquidity block, okay. So we've taken these lows, we have a build up, and what I did was I literally waited for this build up to get taken. I think I entered right on the LB as well. I think I had 0 drawdown in this trade. Yeah, this is the trade I took on Thursday, and I literally closed as we got to these lows. Because it was a Thursday, I just secured my profits, okay. Because what can happen is, because we've now taken the low from the left, we've trapped buyers. So you can see a move back up and then come back down. So you can see that here essentially, okay. So there is a trade here. So look, notice how we respected those lows once more, okay. And then because this is now an LB, we induce lower and then we come up and then we trap. This is another short that you could have taken, covering your LB, and then you would have just taken it to the lows, okay. And that was Thursday. So shorts all the way throughout the week. You wouldn't have looked for any longs, and look how we just continue to sell off, okay. Again, if you were on a CFD, I think Elijah was in these trades on a CFD, took it all the way to our target, and look how we hit target perfectly. And on Friday, once that liquidity was taken, you just have that move back up, okay. Now that was essentially the PA on Friday and during the week, literally a sell week. Nothing there on Friday, and I think there was an outage on Trade of 8, so a non-trading day anyway on Friday. But that's basically the PA for NQ. Anyone got any questions? Any questions? Yeah, this is recorded. Yeah, I would have taken that sell on Monday if the highs were taken. Yeah. No questions. Perfect. Okay, cool. We'll move on to gold. Okay, I'll come on to the asset in a second. Yeah, all good. All right, cool. Yeah, let's move on to no, these are not normal conditions. I mean, look at NQ. That is like, if you're finding it hard to navigate, this price action, it's normal. It's a normal feeling. Look at the range we've been in. We finally come and spiked that monthly low. Okay, so we could see hopefully that move back up now. I'm hoping we might see further downside. I do see this liquidity like still here. So it's more about reacting to next week's open, how we open. But yeah, we still have liquidity to the downside. Okay, I am hoping that we move higher. Again, like I said, I couldn't believe we formed like a triple top there. So we have liquidity to target. So I don't want to catch that bottom. I want to see what price tells me, like, are we ready to move bullish? Okay, so that was NQ. I'm hoping that was nice and clear. Let's move on to GC or gold. Many opportunities today, this week on gold. The direction was there. For me, catching these entries were a little bit difficult. But you can see clearly here, right? We induced higher and we came back to the lows. So let me just mark this out. So we induced higher. We respect these lows. We then move higher, break structure to the upside. I think that was Tuesday. Yeah, if you caught that high on Tuesday, you would have carried that trade all the way down to the lows. Okay, and I probably would have partialed at these lows. So that last inducement low that took out that high, and we are in an LB area. So you can see that once price took that low, Friday had that bullish move back up. But yeah, if you caught those trades from Tuesday, the shorts all the way down to that low there, you would have eaten this week on gold, because I mean, you can literally see it from a higher time frame perspective. This is an LB. Do you know what? If you caught that, I think that's the market open as well. That's an LB, tapped into the LB, started to sell off, respected these lows. Yeah, gold's a nice, easy one. Like, look how we respected the lows, moved away. Once we took out that 4-hour high, yeah, Wednesday, boom, reversed. You can literally see it from the higher time frame. Respect the high, take these highs again, sell off. So where I've marked those red lines, you can literally see the entries 1, 2, 3. And then if we go down to lower time frames, you can just refine those, right? So yeah, LB took out the high. If you caught that, is that Tuesday? Yeah, that would have been amazing. But yeah, let's just look at it from a day by day basis. So what do we do? So on the market open, we gap down, okay, and we start to respect essentially these highs to the left, and we start to sell off. So on Monday, there's nothing there for you to really take on Monday, because all we've done is from the left we've induced buyers. You can see that we've come to these lows, respected these lows, okay, and then we come back and take all of that liquidity that we built, okay, forming our LB. So that's now an LB. So I'll mark out all the trades that you could have taken. So let's go to the lower time frames and dissect this. Yeah, I mean, this would have been a higher time frame entry for sure. So we induce lower and then we come up and take those highs. You know, that could have been an entry. Stops above that. So that's definitely an entry you could have taken. targeting that liquidity below. Okay, so what do? We start to, on Tuesday, this is PM session, Wednesday Asia, we're just starting to sell off. Okay, and look at all this liquidity we're creating. We respect this area, and then basically we move away, taking all that liquidity out. So hold on, let me just frame this out. So I'll just remove that for now. So this is where I believe I took a trade and got hit with a BE. So what I did was I waited for the high to get taken, which it did. So you can see what we've done here. Look at this build up, respect these lows, we trap, so we take out that. That's now an LB. So I marked this area out as my LB. And then we basically induced lower, and then we came and took the highs. So this is where I entered. My stops were above this high, and I was targeting these lows. Now if I got in somewhere here and had my stops above here, I wouldn't have gone BE. I would have just carried on with the trade. However, once we took these lows, okay, I did go BE, and you can see how we respected that area once more, trapped again. Now on reviewing my trade on Wednesday, I saw that not all the liquidity had been taken. So if you look to the left, you can see how that was just part of that build up. So we respected these highs to the left and moved away. So price came and took all that liquidity. So if I now move this line to the highs, you can see how we come and take that. Now that's an LB there. If you got in at these highs, amazing. Okay, so that's like PM session on Wednesday, and then you can see that is like you catching that, you know, on a CFD, man. Yeah, even here, like if you caught anything in this area, you are literally holding that till the lows go. But yeah, so we basically start to sell off on Thursday. So let me just keep this here. So we have all that liquidity to the downside. Okay, now on Thursday, I think this is during Asia. Yeah, during Asia, you can see how we respect this area, move back up. So there's an LB here. I get this question a lot as well. Is like, and maybe I'm answering your question now, is like, all right, look, once we've taken these cells down and then come up and trapped, because we've trapped, you have to use a bit of logic. Price then doesn't have a reason to come up higher, okay? And you wait for PA, so this is literally a massive build up. We induce lower, and then we come up and we take out that whole build up. Okay, why this high? Because you can see where we reacted from. Okay, that is an entry Thursday during Asia, I believe. Stops above that high, and again, like any trade on gold this week on CFD, any shorts you've taken, you would have just held. So hold those to the lows. And then once we've basically taken that liquidity out, okay, there's no trades I would take. I mean, we came up, took out this high, formed an LB. Do we tap into it? We do. When's that? During Asia again. Not the highest probability, but you could have taken something on Friday to those lows, but look how it's just in a range. But yeah, once we take those lows out, if you look at it from the daily time frame, we induced higher, we've reacted to these highs, and then we come and trap. So you can expect Friday to have that bullish move back up. Okay. So on Friday, you can see how we take out all that liquidity. So this liquidity here. Okay. I would not be taking this buy because we have that target below. It's just not high probability for me to take that high. So you can see we come to that extreme inducement low and we take it. I mean, if you were risking some profits, maybe you could have taken something like that, but yeah, not something I'd take, because we could have just come and stabbed those lows and then moved higher. So where do I see gold? You can see how we're having that move up. Ideally, what I'd like to see going into this week, so I just clear my drawings. I want to see these lows gone. In order for us to take those lows, you can see how we've induced lower. I want to see Friday's high taken. That will be above. This would be a nice. So we open. I would love to see a bullish move up and then sell back down. That's what I'd frame on gold anyway. We could just open and sell off first. So yeah, we'll just take that as it comes. But yeah, that was gold, everyone. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah, if you're trading CFDs on indices, use the futures chart. And on gold, I would just recommend using the gold chart. Yeah. Can I ask why you would take the sell on NQ on Monday? I'm analyzing gold. Any other questions on gold? And then we'll look at some other pairs. Check RTY chart. Yeah, I did. I know what you're looking at. Yeah, I'm hoping that's clear on gold. Someone asked me like how to frame your higher time frame bias, like how you backtest it or something like that. Someone asked me. So you basically go onto this bar replay, select a random bar. I think you can only do it from the 4 hour. Okay. So if I click select a random bar and this pulls up on NQ, I go to the daily, I look at where we are, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I look at where we are. This is like 2022. We've just taken a stab at these lows. We've come into this LB. So I'll just start marking that stuff out. So I'm not looking for entries here. I'm just looking for direction. I'm like, okay. Whoops. We've stabbed into this LB, respected it. Okay. And then we've moved away. So I'll go to the 4 hour. Okay. Where's the liquidity sitting? There's the liquidity. You can see that here. Okay, price then comes and takes this high. So this is how I literally used to frame my direction, and then you can see. You just let the trades kind of play out. There you go. Okay, so that's how you basically go about practicing your higher time frame bias. I know I did that like in 1 second and it looked really easy, but it's not easy. Yeah, you need to practice this stuff. Yeah. I'll go back to gold. Hold on, let me just get rid of that and move back. But yeah, that's how you basically mark out higher time frame bias or practice that. When we reach a higher time frame level from the left, like NQ did this week, how should we better approach the reversal? I mean, you wait. Look, we've taken higher time frame liquidity from the left. You wait. You don't need to catch anything on Monday now. You see what Monday does. If we start to move bullish, respect these highs once more, sell off. Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, we can catch these buys back up to these highs. If on Monday we open and we carry on selling off, then you know we got liquidity below to target. So it's all what we react from, not predict. Yeah. There is trendline liquidity in gold above. Why we can't expect to take that liquidity first? Because we trapped before it. Once we form a trap, there's no reason for price to move higher. Do you especially see the candle that made the BOS as a trap area? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Which buy, Anil? What asset are you talking about? NQ, gold? Dev, you keep saying difference between and inducement. What difference between what? On the 14th of the 7th on gold. Why would I have been buying gold? I just realized what you said. On the 14th. Oh, like an engineered move. Yeah, you could have. Like, the reason why I don't go through engineered moves on the webinar is because there's a lot of new people in this community, and I don't want to confuse you with engineered moves. But just to show you guys an example of an engineered liquidity move is if you have liquidity to target in the opposite way, and you know you're coming into an area, i.e. like let's say it's a liquidity block. So this whole area here, we induced lower and then moved higher. So it's a liquidity block. We induced higher, came lower. So you could have taken this buy. I mean, I think it's in Asia as well. It's not the best. But anyway, in this area, and then targeting those highs. But yeah, that's like an engineered liquidity move. Yeah, what's your question? That's how I would have caught it, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, you can ask questions on NQ. What is one model I should focus on? Example, backtest it at least 100 times or more until I start seeing it. Islam, that's a very good question. One model is the inducement model we use. And this is what I want you to go back and backtest. I'll draw it out here. Just give me a second. Okay, so let's just go through the logic of this, okay? You can see how we are bearish, we're inducing sellers. Right before the liquidity gets taken, okay, I want you to focus on seeing a trap. So this is where sellers were induced and then trapped, and then the liquidity gets taken. Okay, this is a model that I want you to focus on. What do we have? We have liquidity to target as well. Okay, so if there's an LB here, so what I mean by an LB, if there's a direct LB here, so that LB could look something like this. I'll do it in a different color. If an LB is here, so something like this, so if we have an LB here, so if I just mark out this LB, yeah, where we induce lower and then trap higher, so this is an LB, then you can take that direct entry. If not, you look for a confirmation in there. Yeah, so I'm hoping this diagram's clear. Yeah, that's what I'd like you to backtest. I'll flip it so you can see the bullish scenario. Yeah, so we induce higher, come lower, that's an LB. We then start to build liquidity whilst also building liquidity at those highs. We see a trap before and then the liquidity taken, tap into that LB, and yeah, that's also what you should go and backtest.